then I have a weird prescription situation. I use faraway prescription for some things. I use readers for other things. And then a lot of the times I don't wear glasses at all. So if I'm going to get different colored lenses, which do I do? Do I do no prescription, the faraway prescription, the reader prescription? Or it's hard enough for me to juggle my like 2 types of prescriptions, let alone also then adding in 3 lens colors. So this is an example of me being paralyzed. I haven't purchased a single thing yet because I just am like, I don't know what's the right thing. And then I'll like act like as if there's like some choice that if I make it, it's going to like kill me or something. Like, who cares if I make a bad choice and order something that's a mistake? Wasted money. I hate wasting money. Holy Wild Birth is a podcast embracing the reclamation of giving birth rooted in God's original design, undisturbed.
Here, we share homebirth stories highlighting God's presence as the great midwife, as well as conversations about all aspects of a holistic, spirit-led childbearing year, from the perspectives of myself, traditional midwife Lauren Hall, of Rooted in Eden Private Membership Association,
and me, holistic birth keeper and photographer Brooke Collier of Sister Birth. Together, we are co-founders and facilitators of Hearth Mother Journey, where we are raising up the next generation of holy wild birth keepers.
To choose a holy wild birth journey is to consecrate all of your decisions unto the Lord and reclaim creation unadulterated by centuries of human attempts to control and improve upon what God has called good.
Please remember that birth is not a medical event, but a natural process, and we are not your care providers, so this should not be taken as medical advice. Hey, good morning, friend.
Good morning. How are you
How
doing?
are ya?
I am well.
Well, you're well? Good?
I am well. I am well. Yeah, it's actually a fairly normal morning for me today, which is fun.
Good.
And I know it's
Normal
not
is
a normal
good.
morning for
Refreshing.
you, especially with the month that I've had. Yes, it is very refreshing.
Yeah, you deserve a normal morning after the month that you've had, I think. So I'm glad for that for you. Yeah, we are in Wisconsin. So I live in Michigan, for those who might not know. But we traveled to Wisconsin yesterday to visit extended family. So I'm in my brother and sister-in-law's house with their 5 kids plus our 6. And so we have a house full of kids, and it was our first night here last night. And so inevitably I slept really poorly and the kids went to bed way too late, but I'm doing okay. And my sister-in-law made me a mocha this morning she has like a really fancy espresso maker. It's beautiful. Like, she just got it. She upgraded every so often when I come here. I'm like, oh, you upgraded again. So this is like her best yet. And
nice.
It's really good.
Ooh, I like the mug too. Peace like a river.
Yeah, she's got great mugs. That's another thing I love about coming here, is her mug collection is on point.
Yeah. I have my favorite mug filled with Tulsi chai, the Hearth Mother Tulsi chai, to be exact. The special little blend we put in our welcome boxes. And my twin mug. That's a handmade mug with the silhouettes of twins on it. A dear friend sent to me after I helped her through some pregnancy stuff. She sent it as a thank you gift, and I was like, I love it so much. Anyway.
Yeah, such a thoughtful gift.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So, outside of traveling for your family gathering, what else is going on in your life? Anything interesting to chat about?
Well, I told you before we recorded that I was like, I don't know what to say. I feel like we're just kind of living this like life between trips, trip kind of life lately. We've been just traveling so much more than usual, so it's just strange.
Kind of using the off-call time for lots of traveling around, but that's
exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, although I am going back on call as soon as I get back from this trip, which was not expected.
Right. I don't know that my
And
brain
for
has
some
even
reason,
remembered that because you've talked so much about, I'm going to be off call. I'm going to be off call. I'm so
I
excited about
know
being.
I
And
was
now,
so, yeah, I was like
yeah,
100% off call mode, like going off call hard, like,
yeah.
and then what?
Throw
I
the
didn't
phone
share about
away.
this on the podcast. Practically. I have really been working to disconnect from my phone, and it's felt so awesome.
It's,
But then a dear old repeat client who I knew was pregnant again, but hadn't asked me to attend her, reached out like 2 weeks ago and said, I just wanted to touch base now that my due date's coming closer. And I was like, wait, am I coming to your birth? And she's like, yeah, I was thought you were. I wondered why you hadn't sent me a contract. So we had to refinagle. I just finagled and figured it out. And I was like, oh, okay. It took me a minute. Like I had to sit with it because I really love her and I really love attending her births. I just thought she was going to go it alone this time because she completely could. But I was so excited about being so off call that I had to really sit with it for a minute and ask myself if I was willing to give that up, But ultimately decided yes. So she just kind of wanted some really light support. We're going to go for it. And I'm excited for that.
nice.
She kind of just wants documentation and then like to be pampered after she has a baby. And I'm like, I'm here for it, girl. Let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hopefully that will be a nice and easy, just lighthearted kind of on-call period. Smooth
I think
birth
it will.
and all the things. I'm
Yeah.
praying for some smooth births. It has been a rocky month over here. I normally keep things like 1 to 2 a month. That's how I prefer it because I have a lot of other things going on. Mom to 8 and all of our, business workings of Hearth Mother Journey and the podcast and writing my curriculum and book and, just a lot of things in the air. And even if I didn't, honestly, I still, I don't know, maybe I would take a little bit more when I'm like, have raised my children and they're off doing their own things. But I don't think I'd ever want to do much more because I really love it's not even the amount of births, but like the amount of prenatals that come with that and the amount of postpartums and just like, if the more you add, the less you can give them in prenatal times and postpartum times, and did I feel that this month because everything just kind of got a little wonky. So I only had 2. I will take 3 if it's like extenuating circumstances or a repeat client that kind of comes in late or, something like that where I, I will stretch a little to do 3, but I am very firm around that. And somehow I ended up at 5 this month. And I'm like, okay, what is happening? But I had a client that went preterm, and I actually didn't attend her birth, but there was all of the just what is the word I'm looking for? Consulting via phone. I had just broken my foot at that point. And so I was like, I am more than happy to come to the hospital, but I can also just send my birth assistant who knows that hospital really well. She has a good reputation there. She's a doula. She's done a lot of hospital doula births. I'm going to pretty much not going to be able to do anything physically anyways. Right. But I will come and sit, and they were like, please don't, just send Jess. And so I did a lot of phone consulting. So anytime they had stuff going on, they did contact me or, and we talked through some of the decisions and such. But they were like, your foot's broken. It's an hour and a half. Like, you're not, like, it's fine. So I sent her, and she actually did the birth itself, but still just the emotional weight of that was hard. Not as hard as it was for them, obviously, by any means, but it just was like, okay, I'm not on, okay, we're doing that. And then I did have one pretty easy birth. And then there was the long, prolonged labor. And I was pretty much gone for 6 days. And then those 2 were the ones that I was actually on call for. And they were back to back. Like literally I did one 12 hours later. I was at the next mama's birth and then was with her for like a week.
Not enough.
Right. And then, around the same time, the preterm mama had gone. So it was like 4 days apart. from the preterm mom and the other one, or maybe 3 days, something like that. It was all within that time period. And she was in the hospital for a couple days and before, anyways. So within that time period, I had a twin mom, a late transfer. She was also 34 weeks. And she was like, hey, they won't let me give birth to baby A who's breech. And I didn't know I could have twin home birth. I was told early on when I started looking that it wasn't a thing here in Arkansas. And, I had no options. And so I just was using the midwives in the hospital. She'd had one really smooth, easy, almost free birth, honestly, in her first one. And so she just kind of had this, she was like, I did it before in the hospital, it'd be fine. And then she was realizing that the landscape, she had just given, the landscape in the hospital here was very different than the landscape in the hospital from where she had come from another state. And she was just like, this is drastically different. And I don't think I'm going to get the same experience as I did. And it was becoming very clear to her through that. So anyway, I was kind of like, I just broke my foot. Yes, birth. I'm already got 2. I don't know. But it was just so very clear. Like the Lord made it so very clear I was to take her on. And I'm very glad I did. But it ended up being a very hard birth as well. Mm-hmm. And so it was only a couple days after the long week birth that I was at this mama's birth. I think maybe 4 days, 3-4 days. And then I was at her birth, and then her twins ended up being 15 hours apart, which was wild. So I was with her for several days, I guess 3. And then I just recently did a loss for an early first trimester loss, but her husband was going to be leaving out of town for work for several weeks, and she wanted to induce because it had already been about 3 weeks since the baby had passed. And so we ended up doing an induction to help that process along. So, 3 that I was actually planning, and then 2 on the bookends of that were not
right.
planned, kind of, preterm. Yep. And then obviously a loss that we, so neither one we want happening. But yeah, so it was just so much. It was just a lot, back to back, lots of heavy, big births. And there was some things that went on with the twin birth that was the stuckest baby I've ever encountered and the longest resuscitation I've ever encountered. Now, both babies are great, and they're doing fabulous, but it was quite the toll on the nervous system.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, oh my word, yeah. That's the thing people don't realize about birth work is it's not just about going to the births. No. It's the recovery from the births, and sometimes the births are super long and you don't get to know in advance. If all of those 5 births had been butter births, that would have been a different story, but you don't get to know that. You can't know ahead of time if it's going to be that. Right. So yeah. And then that it toll on your nervous system, and having to and then the lost sleep, and the recovery time is real. And then reconnecting with your family in the little, because they miss you when you're gone, and then you're not yourself when you first come back.
So
you're out of
hard
sorts.
on Ren.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so hard on Ren. Willow pretty much, which thankfully, they're super bonded to both Brandon and I, and they're old enough that they're eating and drinking milk and all the things that I want to be, leaving them, obviously. But still, they're toddlers. They're young toddlers. Yeah. And they, it was so sweet and sad at the same time. So the one that I was gone for a really long time was actually, thankfully, really close to home. And so at first I was just kind of okay, we'll let you rest. I'll go home, check in, nurse the babies, get a little, but and then at that point, Brandon had actually taken on my students, all of her 4 children, because her husband was out of town. And her on call, anyways, it got messy, and Brandon was just like,
for those who want to do math, Lauren and Brandon have 8 of their own children, and then they had 4 extras. So Brandon single-handedly was caring for 12 children.
Yes. Now 3 of them are teenagers, so there was some help. They had a 16, 15, and 13-year-old that was kind of assisting. But then I think my oldest was at one point he was finally this is too much for me. He's very much an introvert. He's on the spectrum, which he's very like vocal about. And he was just kind of like, I'm out, Dad. Like, I can't handle this much noise anymore. And so he went and spent like 2 nights, I think, at one of his closest friends' house. And so he just was like, yep, see ya. So it ended up being 11, the most helpful one gone. Because he was just like, I can't anymore. I was here.
Yeah,
I was helpful.
That's fair.
My husbands. I salute you, all midwife husbands.
Yeah, you have a real good one.
Yeah, I do. I have an amazing, amazing helper in this work. Like, I cannot. My husband is amazing. He's such a rock. He's so steady for me. He is so. And it's just the fact that he is, he felt called to be at home when we went on the road. So like he pulled out of the workforce space when we went on the road years ago, for listeners who don't know our whole story. And when he did that, he just realized how much he had been missing of our children growing up. And he was like, I don't want to be out of the house. Like, this is not, and God's called us to be missionaries. Like, we want to do that. Like, so we went on the road for 4 years, being missionaries to the US, just loving on people in the marketplace, that kind of thing. And then when we finally settled back down, I had this thriving midwifery practice, and he was like, let's just keep this. Like, this is working. So he works for our church, just very part-time, and is home. And so we're both home all the time, and it's beautiful, and it works for us. And when I do get called off to a birth, he can just hold down the fort, and it's amazing. So it's quite this perfect setup that he totally gets birth, and he totally understands so he swept in for my student and was like, I got this, it's fine. And funny enough, the second birth, kind of similar circumstances happened. And there was another midwife, because it was twin birth. So a second midwife, her husband, she's dear friends with us. Her family knows my student, all of the things as well. We all go to church together, etc. and so forth. So that time, it was only a 2-day, I think, like a night over. Maybe it was 2 nights over. Anyways, her husband swept in and took my students' kids. And so she was just like, okay, how did your husbands, how did they just do this? And we were like, they're very used to birth and the just rolling with the punches. He has the other midwife and her husband. They have 3 kiddos, but they're all older. So like the youngest is 10 and then 2 teenagers. And so they were like, and then one of them is used to babysitting her kids too. And so very similar situations, essentially, because my older kids babysit her kids a lot. Her kids were like, this is fine. We're fun. It's good. It's they had friends and or people they knew really well. And so, but yeah, she was just like, how did your husbands get, how are they just super dads? Because of birth, because they're used to this. They understand what is happening.
Practice, and I would wager a strong sense of calling and buy-in too, right?
For sure. Yes,
because I feel like probably a lot of dads could rise to the occasion and do that, but they have to be bought in, and they have to be willing and feel like it's a shared calling for the family. Mm-hmm. I'm just struck by how much the community you guys have there between your families, like your student and the other midwife and you, enables your midwifery practice. And it's so much harder to do the work if you don't have that kind of support.
Yeah, that support, that help, that I don't know, it's such a good community, and I'm so very thankful. We hear so much about the ickiness in birth communities, unfortunately, and I feel so very blessed, but I also think it's very intentional that we've what we've built, but also so much blessing that God just dropped another traditional midwife family here that loves the Lord, and raising up some more. I've got such a cool birth team between my student and my assistant and this second midwife when it's called for. So anyway, yep.
Yeah.
So one thing that I have wanted to learn for a long time has been to knit, and I finally kind of feel like I don't want to say mastered it, but I finally I can knit. I can officially say that I can knit and do knit, and actually knit at that last 2 early birth. And I was able to knit a little wool blanket for the burial of her 6-week, 10-week. She was supposed to be 10 weeks, but we think about 6 weeks is when baby stopped growing. So I made a tiny little blanket for baby, but it was not the first.
So
It was
a
the
bit of a
first
sad induction into the knitter
into
status.
knitting status. Yeah, it was like, this was not how I pictured my first knitting at a birth to look like, but I sat there and knit at that miscarriage induction. And yeah, it was a very bittersweet thing to knit first.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I have a hair in my mouth. That's wonderful. I have hair on the edge of my cup. That's what's happening. Long hair problems.
I remember my midwife knit during my first labor, which was a long one. I was in labor for 48 hours, and she made a hat for my baby. She used to do that for, I think, my first 2 or 3 babies with her. She made hats for them during or around the time of their birth.
Yeah.
But then what was funny with the first one, she presented me with this hat, and then my baby came out so big that the hat was too small. So she my firstborn was 9 pounds 7, and I guess nobody saw that coming. So this hat was like probably more for like a 7-pounder, or
yeah.
So she had to take it back, and then she made a new one. But I thought that was so sweet.
On to the next one.
Exactly, yeah. But it was such a sweet gesture, and I've totally romanticized the knitting midwife. But the only time I've seriously made efforts to try to learn to knit was when I was living in India, and there was this Swedish grandmother who was also volunteering for the same Indian organization as me. She was so sweet. Her name was Anne Marie, and she wanted to teach me and the other young American volunteer, we were in our 20s at the time, how to knit. And so we set to work learning to knit from the Swedish grandmother. And for some reason, every time I would do it, I would get so tense, and I was like, my shoulders would be like this, and I'd be like, my thumbs would hurt, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but this is the opposite of relaxing. And so after knitting one scarf, I gave it up forever. I may yet try again, but I don't know.
Yeah. Sounds like you were very much in your head.
Probably. I mean, that's kind of my MO. I really struggle with being in my head in many areas of my life. And so it's probably negatively impacting my knitting endeavor.
I can see that. Interesting.
I overthink like crazy. Like, not in every area, but I definitely struggle with getting in my head about certain things and getting a little like, I don't know, paralyzed by thinking too hard about something. And I'm doing that right now because of you. Bear with me. What I mean by that is you made me, or you shared that podcast episode about light and circadian rhythms. So my whole family listened to it. All of us, me and the kids, listened to it on a long drive to the beach. And my husband listened to it on a drive home from somewhere separately from us. And then we've just been talking about it. So then since then, of course, I am like up to my neck and trying to figure out which changes we can make realistically as a family to like integrate some of those principles into our lives and into our home. I have like all these carts full on all ththese different websites of different like red and amber light things to swap out with my, normal or LED bulbs in my house. And then I'm like obsessing over all the glasses options, because you have those cool, like you see like the 3 yellow, amber, and red. You can like magnet them on and off and what have you. And I'm like, oh, that's super rad. But then I have a weird prescription situation. And so now I'm like OCD about, I use faraway prescription for some things. I use readers for other things. And then a lot of the times I don't wear glasses at all. So if I'm going to get different colored lenses, which do I do? Do I do no prescription, the faraway prescription, the reader prescription? Or it's hard enough for me to juggle my like 2 types of prescriptions, let alone also then adding in 3 lens colors. So this is an example of me being paralyzed. I haven't purchased a single thing yet because I'm like, I don't know what's the right thing. And then I'll like act like as if there's like some choice that if I make it, it's going to like kill me or something. Like, who cares if I make a bad choice and order something that's a mistake? Wasted money. I hate wasting money. Anyway, that's an example. My overthinking.
Wasting money is the hardest thing. And I don't think that you'd be like, I hear you. It sounds like a difficult, decision to weigh between the 2 types of glasses that you have and all things. I would just go with, okay, what are you going to wear the most often? Like, is there a certain that you wear when you're staring at computers the most? Like when you're working, what type of glasses do you need your prescription? Do you need your readers? Or what do you use when you're staring at the computer? Or what do you use when you're out and about outside of your home? Because that's where you have the least amount of control over your light sources, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would think about that. Like, when are you using which pair? And then, go from there.
Yep. So I'll have to scientifically break that down. Just kidding.
Scientifically break it down.
I'll be like making spreadsheets about how many hours per day I spend wearing which types of glasses. Just kidding. I won't do that. But then today, when I saw my sister-in-law's amazing espresso machine, I was like, I would rather spend money on this espresso machine than on red light. But I won't. I'll keep making my pour-overs every morning and then putting steamed milk in it and pretending like it's a latte.
I hear that. Good coffee is important too, right?
Yeah, but I will be okay.
Yeah.
It
needs to be slow. It's a slow transition. It took us a long time to get to where we are, and we still have a long way to go. It's largely changing habits. Like, so much of this can be free. It's just changing your habits of like, okay, we're not going to turn on the lights. Like, it's fine. Like, we're just not using the light bulb. We still have our regular light bulbs in most of the spots, and it's just
you just don't turn them on.
We just try not to turn them on, and then sometimes we do, and and then we notice it. And I think it's kind of like, it reminds me a lot of like when I switched to natural fibers, and it was just like, okay, I'm just going to this is my ideal. This is what I'm going to go. I'm just going to only buy what I want, but I didn't like get rid of everything. And then I slowly, the more and more I brought in the natural fibers, the more I noticed how much I hated the polyester. The more I started feeling that differently, or I would, and it was just like, now I just don't want that. And that's kind of what is happening here. It's like, someone turns on the light and everybody else in the house is like, why'd you do that? And then it gets put back off because we're starting to actually not want it. And then that makes like that, it just is the habit change more than you need to spend all the money and all the things.
That's a good word. Just take it slow and let it evolve instead of having to feel like you have to go from 0 to 60 overnight. And my tendency is to want to go all in and go hard on a thing.
For sure.
A slow journey. That's a good word. Yeah. I was thinking about something I was going to say, and now I'm forgetting what it was, of course.
Okay. Well, the bird in the background is saying a lot. Do you have a window open, or?
Yeah, I'm right inside an open window, and I'm surprised we haven't heard a rooster too, because that's a familiar sound here. Yeah, but
somebody needs
I know
to
I could probably close it.
That bird is like talking up a storm.
Yeah, it is. It's got a
sweet.
Story.
It's more of just, I wanted to let the listeners know what was happening.
Yes, there's birds.
The bird is trying to enjoy the conversation too.
I also had to mute myself a little bit ago because some children were running around out there. So there's like 11 kids on site here right now. Is that right? Yeah, 11. So that's what I was going to say. Cousins are just so great, and we are so rich in cousinness for our kids. That it's just,
I love that. That's a good
like
word
both in Michigan. Cousinness. Just made that up. In Michigan, like my only sibling has 4 children who are roughly the same ages as my first 4 children. And then here in Wisconsin, we have this set of cousins. There's 5 of them, and their ages more or less line up with my first 5, kind of, but not. But anyway, they all just get along so well. And it's such a gift to have cousins your own age who you get along with, and you have like similar family values, similar lifestyles, similar enough. It's not like we're the same.
Yeah.
But I know not everyone has that. And I sometimes have these moments of being just awash with gratitude for that situation for my kids,
I love that. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. Like they cry when we leave because they just are so sad to leave their cousins. And I think, there's even been times where we're like, should we move there to be near them, or would they move here? And unfortunately, we're also embedded in our own communities that doesn't really feel very possible, but we just get to see each other twice a year. Yeah.
So rich in cousinness, but also apart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that does kind of remind me a little bit, side tangent into, we had some questions that were posed to us of like some things that people thought would be fun to talk about. And it was like, well, you
Yes.
mentioned that you're so embedded in your community. So one of the questions was like, what do you love about where you live? In the state you live in. And so I don't know, how are you embedded in your community?
So Tim and I are both small business owners. And, like, once you build up like a reputation and a client base in your community, moving is kind of, when you don't, it's not like we work for a big organization where we can request a transfer and our work is
Right.
already automatically supplied with a appropriate transfer. We would have to be building up again from the ground up of like finding people, building reputation, et cetera, knowing the lay of the land. So that feels daunting. And then, so it's a good thing though. It's good to be at a place where you feel like you're a trusted, known name in your community for the services that you offer.
Absolutely.
I'm glad for that. Yeah, Tim's been working really hard to get a handyman business off the ground for the last few years, and it's just in a really sweet spot. My photography business was very locally embedded. I actually shut that down though about a year ago. So I'm not offering that anymore. So maybe I'd be a little more movable. I don't know. But then also just church community, and my family is all in Michigan. Even my one sibling, my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt all live within 20 minutes of me. So that's a very real anchoring point too, of course.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
the nearness of family. It just feels hard when the husband's family is so far away.
Sure.
So it's a trade-off. Like if we moved here, we would have some of his family close to us. Not all of them because they're spread out a bit around the country, but some of them at least would be right here. How else are we embedded? Well, I'm just embedded in the land. Like I just love Michigan. I mean, every winter I curse it under my breath because the winters are long and hard and cloudy. We rank one of the cloudiest states in the country, which is hard, especially in the winter when the days are already short and then you're not, even when the sun is out, you're not seeing it because of the overcast skies.
Sure.
But the reason we have that kind of sky is because we have our lakes.
Yeah, your lakes.
The Great Lakes, and they're magnificent. And so I just love the land, the proximity to Lake Michigan. I guess those are the ways that come to mind. But those are significant. Those are all pretty significant.
They are.
Yeah.
I remember standing, just to speak to the love of the land. I remember standing on your porch when we visited. When was that? I guess it was your new house. So I guess it was when we had just planning the HJ launch, and we were planning out or not the launch, but the program, the course. When we came up to okay,
back when we thought we could whip it together in one weekend.
We'll just go up there.
No problem. We'll whip it up in one weekend while you're here.
Yeah, let's just map it out.
Oh, how naive we were.
Some things. Yeah. We were, if we had maybe decided to make it a simpler program, but we are too much of an idealist and too high standards for the type of birth workers we wanted to birth. So yeah, that was not a weekend project, a week project, by any means. It took us the whole year.
A solid year. A solid year of diligent work.
Really longer than that. It was almost 2 years because there was the prep before we launched, and then there was a lot of the drip content that once a month dripping. So probably almost 2 years of the dreaming, the planning, the beginning the process, and then carrying through the first cohort. That was quite the baby. But anyway. When we came up for that, I remember standing on your porch and just looking out and being like, I think I could actually live here. Like this, the good friends, the beautiful land, it was just such a sweet, it's a good land. It really is a good land. And then I remembered how cold it would get. And I was like, I could live here for a couple months of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you'd acclimate and you would really get to put your wool to use. But yes, it gets real cold. Yeah, it's Michigan's really woodsy. It's a really woodsy state. A lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely like some of them are metropolitan areas that are not so, but you don't have to go very far north to feel like you're in the middle of a national forest because you are. Like it's just very unspoiled beauty. And Michigan, actually Grand Rapids area where we live has been ranked by a couple of magazines as like the best places to raise a family in the US because the cost of living compared to the like amenities and perks of it is so good, I guess. Yeah.
Nice.
But
nice.
How about you? What do you love about Arkansas?
I'll be honest, there was a little bit of a technical difficulty there, and I have absolutely no idea what you just said. So
it's okay.
Something about a good place to raise a family, which sounds like a great idea, but I have no idea what else you said.
Yeah, no, that was about it. And then I just talked about how woodsy Michigan is. Like it's just very woodsy.
So I really do love Arkansas for similar reasons in the sense of like, you know, we call it the natural state is what it's been named. And we do have just such a beautiful land here. Like there's such gorgeous trees and creeks and rolling hills. And I love the opportunities that we get to just be in nature. Just this unadulterated nature, live by the ocean though. We do have like creeks and lakes and that kind of thing, but I am definitely a water girl. And so even though I love those, like the ocean is where it's at for me. And so honestly, who am I kidding? I love all of landscape and I really enjoy traveling. I like to be able to switch and change my environment minus the community aspect. So if it was just about the land, I could just be about anywhere and be great. But when it came down to like God asking us to settle down in Arkansas again and really rooting back into our families are here and our communities are here. So, you know, it's just the community aspect that I have now, you know, juxtapositioned to traveling. I love being able to be rooted in. Both of our families are here, my husband's and mine. Most of like our kind of immediate people that we do life with. My sister is in Alabama, and he has some brothers all over, and his parents are actually in Memphis. Yeah, we have a good community, good friends, solid church, and it was really needed for my kids to like settle down, especially my older ones. I think my younger ones would travel all their days too, but the older ones were kind of, they're a little bit more homebodies. They want a little bit more stability. They were like, can we, you know, I want to be able to stay here. So we stopped largely for them. So I don't know what the future will hold for us as far as where we will be. I do imagine we'll end up in Africa at some point, but yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciating beauty in all of its different forms and being able to live, like dip in and out of all those different types of scenery that the US has to offer must have been such a cool experience. But you're right, it just becomes hard to maintain a deep community that knows you well and that you know well if you're moving around so much. So always the trade-offs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. I think it's getting to travel all over the country. I just found God's beauty in all of it. Like, I loved being in Arizona, which I never would have thought. Like, okay, the desert, like, I'm going to miss all the green. But man, God has just made rock so beautiful. It's these, especially like the northern part of Arizona and like Sedona area. And it's just this, you know, it's like Sedona red. Like it's just a specific kind of clayey oranges and reds. And it's like the sunset has been painted on the landscape. Like
I love Arizona.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
They're red. They're so gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
It still was just so beautiful. And the ability to just see the sky. And yeah, I pretty much just love all landscapes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just need to know where water is. I feel like long term, I have to know that there's water nearby. So though I appreciated the Arizona landscape a great deal, the one time in my life where I've lived for like a few months that didn't have a large body of water felt really unmooring to me. And that was when I lived in southern India. And like there's barely any lakes, or like I could almost feel in my body the lack of a river, because in my city we have a huge river that goes through it. And like, I always know where that is. And then we have Lake Michigan to the other side. And I always know, like, I feel where those things are, and it kind of anchors me somehow. And the absence of a large body of water I just didn't like that. I don't think I could do that long term. As weird as that might sound.
I need water. I need God's water around me all the time. Yeah.
My name is actually a water name. So Brooke, my mom actually named me after a literal brook when she was walking at a nature center that I still go to periodically. It has this lovely little brook running through it. And that, from what I understand, that was inspiration for my name, was that brook. And so I appreciate that. And so somebody gave me the verse, like in Psalm 1, talking about being like a tree planted by streams of living water. That's become meaningful to me. And then my middle name, Nicole, which is yours too, Victory. So I've sort of, I used to be mad because my name didn't have like a real meaning, because it's just like a place name, essentially. It's like so refers to literally a body of water. I was like, well, how lame. But then when I started thinking about that paired with my middle name being Victory, that's what Nicole means. It's like her victory comes from like being by streams of living water, by resting by streams of water. That's kind of how I've like taken my name meaning for myself. And that's a good message for me. Yeah. Similarly, my daughter Hazel's name is a nature name. It's just Hazel. So it's like Hazelwood, witch Hazel. We didn't know she was going to turn out to be such a nature nerd. And this is what's so interesting to me about naming, is that sometimes you have this unction to name a child something, and you don't necessarily even have the best reason, or you do have some reasons, but then more reasons unfold as they grow and become.
I've always said, like, I don't name my kids, God does. Like, he's just always really he's just very clearly given their names. And so I've never really felt like I've chosen a name for my children. Like, it's just been like, that's who they are. Okay, cool. Thank you. And they've all just really fit their names. It's such a fun thing to watch unfold.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I love it so much. So sweet. Yeah. I don't feel like I've had this experience of the Lord giving me names per se, but just I do believe that he's led me to gravitate towards certain names for the children, because in hindsight, I can see how right they were. Even if at the time it was more a little bit about aesthets, or like we have certain themes for our names, like most of our children have names that peaked in popularity in the 1920s and 1930s. So that's been kind of like the theme. But even within the like limitations of my self-imposed preferences for naming, he has like led us to specific ones that were absolutely like prophetic and or shaping of who they are going to be. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we got to names. We're talking about what we love about our states, but here we are. I guess that's what these couple of episodes are
absolutely.
For. Yeah, I'll just go with it.
Yeah, it's always good to catch up. All right, friend. Well, talk soon. Bye.
I need to get back to my family reunion. So, but I was glad to take some time to chat with you. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Bye. I guess I do have something else to add. We wanted to make sure to let everyone know that we are going to be doing something a little different and fun kind of later in August. We're going to host a series of live calls in our Mighty Networks. So be sure to join that if you're not already in there, people, where Lauren and I are going to get on live calls and take people on camera to ask their questions or lay out their life situations, their conundrums, whatever's on their mind and heart about birth work and pursuing birth work. And then we're just going to take some time to respond to those things. So this will be just a chance for you to kind of get a taste of what our like coaching and mentoring is like. And just we hope to just enter into it with you and kind of help you discern and listen to God about your path forward, and just be in it with you. So this will be just kind of a free kind of thing. We will be posting those dates pretty soon in our Mighty Network circle. So that link will be in the show notes for you. If you get in there, then you will soon see the event dates pop up, and then you just need to attend them live, and we'll try to call on people to bring them on camera to ask their questions, and we'll respond to them. Hopefully that will serve some of you, because I know that a lot of our listeners are somewhere in the journey of birth work and pursuing birth work. Some of you are already there, but you're kind of like redirecting and pivoting, or just changing things about the way you do birth work. And others of you are just in the very beginning stages of dreaming about what that could look like in your life and feeling the call. And anyway, we just know it's a weighty subject with a lot to process and discern. And so we'd love to serve you by being in that with you. So you are cordially invited. Hopefully we will see you there. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Holy Wild Birth. We hope that you were genuinely encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. If you're loving what you hear, please make sure that you share it. Leave reviews. That helps other mamas find this content as well. And don't forget to read the show notes, okay? Because that's where you can find our email address if you want to reach out to us and start a conversation. It's also where you'll find free offerings as well as invitations to work with me and or Lauren. We can't wait to get to know you. See you next week.